So, oh, what did I just do? Oh, here we go. Yeah, it's a little bit of additional exposure. I'd be surprised if more than 100 people in each of those markets are watching those replays. I'd be shocked. And certainly none of them have the internet because they have not talked about it. So, all right, guys, let's get to this Impact reaction show, and then we'll run down the latest card for Genesis, and then I got to roll out, so I'm on a 20-minute time hack, so I'll have to roll out from there. But the opening match is Steve Macklin, Eric Young, and Jonathan Gresham. They defeat the System, Eddie Edwards, Brian Myers, and JDC. This match came about because last week the System walked in front of their camera shot, and so now we have a feud. So let's get in here. JDC tags in and goes to work on the legal man in the ring with softened up Young. He isolates the arm of Young and focuses his attack on the limb. He brings into the System corner, tags Edwards back in. The two hits and double team stomps, and Edwards takes over. Macklin and Young butt heads at one point, and Gresham attempts to play peacemaker, and after the chaos calms down a bit, Macklin ends up as the legal man in the ring with JDC. He hits the KIA finisher on JDC and gets the pinfall victory, and then once the match wraps up, the System attack the trio with chairs, and after beating Young and Macklin down, they put a chair over Gresham's head on the floor and run it into the steel post. So they killed Jonathan Gresham. He is out. I would not be shocked if Jonathan Gresham is retired. So his latest couple months in Impact, he just looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. I don't think he's really happy being a pro wrestler anymore. He seems like to be an emotional guy. I think he'd be happy going to coach somewhere, maybe even like be an NXT coach, teaching holds and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know that we'll be seeing Jonathan Gresham on national television for a long time. And I say that, and probably he'll pop up on the next taping of Ring of Honor, but is what it is. The match was okay. I think that we'll where this leads to, the System versus, I guess later in the show they call themselves Renegade. So Eric Young and Steve Macklin are called Renegade, even though they're already like doing a breakup angle. So they got a tag team name. So there you go. Let's see. Billy says, I don't think that Gresham even got in the match. I can't remember if he did or not. I did watch. I watched the full thing, but the match wasn't anything. It was just kind of just a match. Like, it wasn't good or bad. It was just like a series of maneuvers that led to a pinfall, and then an angle afterwards. And then the angle was saying, like, Jonathan Gresham is not re-signed here. Thank you for your service, Jonathan Gresham. Man, what a shitty run that guy had. And I'm not putting the blame all on him. I just don't think TNA knew how to book the guy. And when you're not booking Jonathan Gresham, well, you can tell on his face that he's not happy. He's got boo-boo face. It's kind of very like legendary boo-boo face. Next we go into like I thought was great. I've been asking them to do this for a long time. They did it had to be like a 6, 7, 8 minute like documentary video package on Joe Hendry. And I'm like, where was this before Bound for Glory? Like, we needed this over the summer. NXT even did one before the Joe Hendry Ethan Page match. They actually did a deep dive into Joe Hendry and his past and to figure out what makes Joe Hendry tick. And I think that TNA one-upped NXT, to be honest with you. I thought this was excellent. Like, we've been needing this for Joe. It's been the thing that's been missing. It's like, hey, we need to figure out what makes this guy tick. What's his why? Why is he doing all this stuff? And the next thing we need to know is, can he get mad? We still haven't seen him get mad, but now we figured out his backstory. We know his why. We know what his goals are, why he's singing them songs. Like, I didn't know he was in a band. I had no idea. I knew about the wrestling, the Greco-Roman stuff, because that had been talked about before, but I never saw the action shots. And so I'd like to see him incorporate some more of that. Like, and then Tom Hannafin needs to explain, like, oh no, he is a British Greco-Roman national champion, right? That could be a part of his deal going forward. I think people would respect that, because when he comes out and he's doing the smiling and the singing and the dancing, he kind of comes across as a Barney. But now, like, we know, like, no, this guy can shoot too, right? Like, this guy, there's a lot to Joe Hendry, not just a meme, not just a gimmick. That helps. That helps get the audience more involved into the character, right? When we get some of the backstory. So I thought this was tremendous. It was much needed. We've been needing this for a long time. So kudos to TNA. And yeah, love the Joe Hendry video. Maybe for this occasion, but you're right, Mike. I don't know what that meant. Okay, surprising Joe has judo and amateur wrestling background, but rarely shows it. Yeah, I think he needs to get more into that, especially if he's a main event guy. Like, he's the main event guy. He should be more of a badass. You want your main eventers to be badasses. That's what, like, at the end of the day, the audience wants to believe that you can kick people's asses, right? Like, if there's going to be a villain, they want to know that Joe Hendry's the hero that can conquer the villain. And we're not going to believe a guy out there singing and dancing. He's got to kick ass, right? Has to. Speaking of kick ass, Savannah Evans comes out to the ring, and she's getting ready for her match. She thinks she's going to be wrestling Zaya Brookside, but Zaya comes out and says she's not cleared because of the attack from Savannah Evans from almost 2 months ago on Turning Point. And so out comes Lei Ying Lee. She comes out, and they proceeded to have like a 4-minute match, I think. And Lei Ying Lee gets the victory. Again, another like okay match, not much to it. Like, it was 4 minutes. So like the video that they put out was like a 6-minute video, and like 2 minutes of it was like Zaya Brookside announcing Lei Ying Lee's return. So short match, but we got and Billy says it was a sloppy 4 minutes. Yes, it was. And Io says, I guess this wraps their feud. You know, I would have liked to have seen like them build this match up into like a big match. But instead it's like, okay, Lei Ying Lee's back and just kicks her ass, and that's the end of it. It's like, we could have built this up for weeks, right? They taped 3 weeks of television in one night. They could have built this up for 3 weeks. Like, this match could have been next week. And they could have been teasing it for 3 weeks. But instead, Savannah Evans comes out, and that was it. Gets her ass kicked. The Juggernaut is backstage with Gia Miller, and she leans directly into the camera and bluntly states, Tessa, if you want to fight, let's fight. And then says the B word, so you know that she means business. So I'll be in the ring later. Meet me there. When she said later, she really meant later, because we did not see this lady for like another hour. But the way she's talking here makes it seem like I'm heading to the ring right now. But no, she had some shit to take care of, I guess. Or maybe she got lost. I don't know. Or, as somebody pointed out to me, maybe she was checking on Jonathan Gresham, who just got his fucking head taken off by a steel chair. And because TNA did not have enough content to fill the episode, they went to a 10-minute commercial with the TNA Plus moment of the week, showing the entire match between Kurt Angle and Jeff Jarrett from Genesis 2009. Boy, is this embarrassing. You know, they sold out 2 nights in a row at Center Stage. They should have just added a third night and loaded these tapings up heading into Genesis. They could have maybe gotten close to a third sellout, right? If they did a Sunday night show. It probably would not have sold out, but they could have gotten a lot of people in there, and they could have just done another taping. But instead, they tried to do 3 weeks in one night, and now they don't have enough content to fill up the episodes, so they have to do TNA Genesis 2009 on their weekly show, showing matches from 16 years ago. It is so embarrassing. like they have all this momentum. People want to support the company. They want to take them seriously. And then when you watch their weekly show, they're showing full matches from 16 years ago. Could you imagine Raw doing this? Like debut on Netflix? Like, all right, we don't have enough content to show you. So we have to then show you Triple H's title run from like 2005. It's like, who's running this shit? Like, who thought this was a good idea? Like, they're not poor. They're selling tickets. Add a third taping. If you don't want to make the one night, the Saturday night taping after, in Atlanta, if you don't want to make it like a 5-hour night, add another one. You got the money. You could do it. Jesus. So lame. So lame. All right. And then we go to the Mike Santana Northern Armory Gauntlet. So he's got to run through Judas Icarus, Travis Williams, and then run through Josh Alexander, which I think we all saw what was about to happen. He has a short but sweet match with Judas Icarus. The bell sounds the first of the 3 potential matches, and he gets underway. Santana gets the early dominant jump on offense, taking it to one half of the center and say duo. And then within 2 minutes, Santana takes him out with a spin to block for the win. And then Travis Williams is next. The bell sounds, and the match gets underway. Santana I think this guy on the Observer is Chat GPT in this shit, because he's just saying the same things over and over again. All right. Santana dumps Williams on his head and then begins a fired up offensive comeback. Moments later, he finishes off him. And match number 3 ends in disqualification because all 3 guys end up jumping Santana before he gets to have his match with Josh Alexander, which then leads to the announcement that it will be, in fact, Mike Santana versus Josh Alexander at Genesis. And I don't think this has been announced yet. I think we find that out this coming up week, but it looks like it's going to be an I Quit match. So maybe Josh says I quit, and then he no, I really mean I quit, and I not just the match, I mean TNA. So, and then we get to George Iceman. He talks directly into the camera, says something huge, something special for the whole world is going to want to see. He's going to do something unprecedented that no one in the history has ever done. He's added Icy Heather Nash by Elegance as TNA Knockouts Tag Team Champions. Next week, in front of the entire world, we're going to do a pre-launch of the championship celebration. So they're going to celebrate a little bit early. And then we go to the back, and Rosemary is shown talking to, doing her stuff there, talking about how she's coming for TNA Knockouts champion Masha Slamovich. As she's talking, in walks Raven. Rosemary then puts a knife to Raven's throat, and then Raven says, "Man, if only I was not taken." And then calmly suggests that she challenged Slamovich into a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match because, as he put it, she doesn't really have a shot in a normal match. She never wins. So now they're going to do a Clockwork Orange match. So going to be a death match type of deal, which is what Masha Slamovich's specialty is. Although she can have the Joshi and regular American women's wrestling style matches, but she likes that world. She likes to do the death matches. So we're going to see her doing kind of a garbage match with Rosemary, and that's what Rosemary does best too. So I think if they were to put them in a regular match, probably just wouldn't be as good. And I guess we need a reason for Rosemary to get a title shot. She doesn't exactly deserve one, but here we go. She's getting a match. So, but it was kind of fun to see Raven again. I like seeing him. I hope they bring him back more often. All right. Next, we go to the Rascals defeating the Good Hand Jobbers. And the match was fine. Match was okay. Nothing special. I thought Trey Miguel specifically looked really good in the match. He does a lot of cool moves. Rascals, so Miguel finally gets the much-needed tag and helps the Rascals shift the offensive momentum back into their favor. They cruise from their in-route victory with a super kick and a spine buster, feed him to the Lions combo finish for the pinfall. So Rascals get a victory over the Good Hand Jobbers heading into TNA Genesis. I think they really need to get Jason Hotch away from Skyler. Not that Skyler's like a bad wrestler, he's not, but he's just like, he's a guy going nowhere fast. He's a guy there to do a job, right? But I think Hotch has got something. I think Hotch could be really good. I'd like to see Hotch in a tag team with Jake Something now that Jake Something's not in the tag team. That'd be cool. All right, we go to backstage. Frankie is there with Rhino. Rhino's taping his wrist ahead of his final match in TNA. Frankie Kazarian walks up, makes an arrogant comment, making it clear that he'll be watching the main event tag team bout closely. And so there you go. And then Moose, all of a sudden we hear, "Do you want to know something?" And the crowd immediately boos. Man, Alicia Edwards has got heat. She does. She's good. Out comes Moose. He boasts being the greatest X Division champion of all time, the face of the company. After he rambles for a while, that he says that he's going to debut a new TNA X Division championship belt at TNA Genesis. And I have seen the belt. It's beautiful. I'm really excited for him to have his own custom-made belt. And I think a lot of people online thought that they were scrapping the X Division altogether, which was weird. That it never really got reported. It was just like, I think it was just a bad aggregation from someone that was there live, and then it just got aggregated over and over again. And the next thing you know, like all these sites are saying that TNA is scrapping their X Division, TNA LOL. And then I saw the live report and it's like, no, it sounds to me like he's just getting his own custom belt. And sure enough, that's the case. He's just getting his own custom belt. And it's a nice looking belt. But this is not the first time someone's had their own custom belt. It's just what they're doing. It's a nice belt. So, and then for some fucking reason, Andrew Everett comes out. And this crowd did not care about Andrew Everett. That's a poor guy. And he's still doing the Andrew the Giant gimmick. It doesn't make him any money. I don't know why he's still sticking with it, but he's doing the one strap leotard gimmick. He says he's a true X Division competitor. Really, dude? You're never here. But okay. Moose warns him that one more word, he's going to get his ass kicked. Everett does not heed Moose's warnings. And then Moose just beats the shit out of him. He gets an X Division title shot. A referee comes out, and Moose beat the holy hell out of this guy. Like, this was a brutal beatdown. This was tough. And Ace Austin's just watching in the back, doesn't come out to save this guy because fucking who cares about Andrew Everett? But yeah, this was just a brutal one-sided beatdown. So to set up to make Moose look dominant heading into the match with Genesis, and boy, did they ever do did this ever do the trick. He really beat the hell out of Andrew Everett. Let's see. Billy says, announcers made a point that Moose is redefining what X Division stands for. Yeah. Io says he clearly said new X Division title, so whoever reported that in person didn't get the full hearing. Yeah. So there you go. And then Santino Marella approached by Sami Callihan backstage. Sammy says he wants a tag team. He says he wants the winner of the Hardys and Rascals at TNA Genesis. Callahan mentions how he and PCO have never been pinned. Well, they've only had one match or one or two. So, okay. Congratulations. Santino keeps calling him Death Meat. It's like, ugh, it's not even funny. But Santino offers Callahan a PCO match against the Hardys next week, and if they win, they'll be added to the Hardys versus Rascals for the TNA Tag Team Championships at TNA Genesis. But we already know that PCO will not be a Genesis. He is booked for Game Changer Wrestling on the same night. So there you go. Back in the Impact Zone, Jordan Grace walks to the ring and looks all business. She gets on the mic and mentions the name of Tessa Blanchard. She says Blanchard should be terrified of what she could say right now. Instead, she offers Blanchard the same opportunity she'd offer anyone, which is to come to the ring to face so she can say it directly to her. Tessa hits the ring from off camera. Grace appears ready for her. Then they just start punching each other. And then they roll around and fight as officials swarm the ring and ultimately break them up while fans are loudly chanting, let them fight, let them fight. All the heat on Tessa from the internet has died down already. Like, it lasted a week. So if you're wondering why TNA brought them back without fear of reprisal from the internet, is because the people that were mad about it, they're already not mad anymore. They don't care. It's like, yeah, you guys were not watching the show anyway, so fucking who cares what you think? And then main event time. we go Joe Hendry and Rhino. They defeat Nick Nemeth and Ryan Nemeth, of course. They're putting over Rhino big time as being an all-time legend. It's his last match of the company. He's a Hall of Famer. We had Frankie Kazarian on commentary. At one point, Rhino hit the spear, hit the gore on Ryan Nemeth, and then Nick Nemeth super kicks Rhino and takes him out, and then Joe Hendry clotheslines Nick Nemeth to the outside, and then he hits the standing ovation on Ryan, gets the victory. Theme hits, and then that's it. So we still don't have a whole lot of heat between Nemeth and Joe Hendry, so I'm curious as to what they're doing next. Next week, we got Trent Seven versus Leon Slater, Laredo Kid versus Jake Something, Sammy Callahan and PCO versus the Hardys, Eric Young and Steve Macklin versus First Class, and a championship pre-launch celebration with the Elegance Girls. So there you go. That's what we got going on next week for Impact. Let's see. It'll be funny if PCO tapes something for Genesis. No. No, that's not happening. All right. Could you see a program with Tessa and Zaya in the future? Zaya Brookside? I mean, I'm sure like they both work there. Zaya's a babyface. Tessa's a heel. But it wouldn't be anything other than Tessa kicking the shit out of her. Yeah, Zaya's just not on that level. She's not. Interesting that announcers brought up JBL. I think it's going to be interesting to see if JBL shows up at GCW Hammerstein or if he shows up at Genesis. He's not advertised for either one. So I am curious about that. I am. We'll see what happens there. I would expect him at the live Impact, but I'm right now I'm like 50-50 whether or not he shows up at Genesis. So, but they do keep bringing him up. So that is true. We'll see what happens. But all right, guys. Yep. Sorry for the short episode this week. I do have somewhere to be, so I gotta sign off here. But again, if you missed the earlier Brace for Impact that I did earlier in the week, it's available on Patreon, and I think I ended up releasing it a couple days later on YouTube, so it's actually there too. So go ahead and check it out. But the full ad-free audio is on Patreon, so please check that out. All right, guys, I got to go get packed and ready to go for our staycation downtown. And until next week, mahalo.